Welcome to the Seraphine podcast. I am Seraphine Arocha, and today we are reviewing Bridgerton, episode 5. This is called The Duke and I. I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with 3 of my closest friends. We've got Dr. Auburn. Hello.
Hey.
We've got Chelsey.
Hi.
And we've got Giovanna.
Hello.
Hello, ladies. So this episode is, and it's you too, Chunk. Say hello. I'm reviewing as well.
He gives 2 shits.
He's like, I'm just here, ladies, for the cocktails. So this begins with her coming back, so Daphne, from the duel, and she announces that she's getting married to Simon. So starts out on a really intense note, and you can tell that her mom is like, huh? Because Prince Friedrich was going in for the kill.
She's wearing his jewels.
So they go in and they want to speed up their marriage, get a marriage license, because they know that her virtue is being threatened and being exposed. So they've got to go to the queen, and they've got to ask the queen for permission. When this started out, did you think that they were actually going to go through with it? I actually didn't. I thought we would have a little bit more, like Simon was going to put like a little bit more resistance up.
I thought maybe he would give a little resistance. I knew they would go through with it because of the show. Like I don't know. I felt like it was kind of predictable in certain ways, but the point of hesitation was when he pulled his hand from her. And so that was the one time where I was like, ooh, this could go a little south for Miss Daphne here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, that was the other thing for me is I really didn't. I was trying to understand really, like, to be with someone who does that, like to want to marry that. That's like,
Yeah.
I was really surprised she kind of pushed it.
After that moment,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think they both felt desperate though. And he is such a guy that is really stagnant on his honor and the honor of other people. So I knew that he was going to go through with it. Even if it was fake for him, he was going to go through with it because he's just a gentleman.
Yeah.
Then they go to see the queen. And it was interesting because I feel like Daphne has this moment of she's trying to explain the reason why they're trying to push through the marriage without telling the truth.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's me every day of my life. I'm always kind of trying to feel out what people want to hear, and I'm trying to work harder on just speaking the frickin' truth because most of the time people can handle it. And what I loved was that moment where Simon saw she was struggling and didn't like to see her lying. But I think he also knew that he had to reassure her in some way.
Yeah.
So, Chelsey, walk me through. I want to know how you felt at that moment from where it was Daphne to Simon.
Well, like you said, Daphne was trying to basically plead their case to the queen because they had tried to rush their marriage, and she denied it because she was upset that she had turned down Prince Friedrich, whatever, however you say his name. So
Freddie.
Like, to make it sound worse.
Yeah. So, you could see through it. You could see through her. I mean, you could tell that she was not speaking from her heart. And then Simon, who was so closed off and so like, he didn't want to get married to her. He didn't want to get married at all. And then come in and like this beautiful moment where he explains their relationship. I think he's even like opening her eyes up to I don't think she even realized that it all began with friendship. Yeah. Like that's what he says at the end. Like he says like we kind of fooled everyone and we ended up liking being around each other and I couldn't be away from her. And it all started with friendship. So I'm getting tongue twisted, but
it became apparent when he was threatened of losing her to the prince.
Yeah,
he was like, well, we're friends, but now I don't like this feeling of losing her
exactly
to him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and at that point, she hadn't even mentioned or hadn't expressed her feelings towards him whatsoever. So he had no idea.
Yeah.
He had neither, though. And he had these cold moments toward
Right.
her.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was very revealing for them both. And for it to happen in this public court with everybody
Yeah.
was amazing. And then I think the look on the queen's face, you could tell when her countenance melted.
Yeah.
And she went from, this is bullshit, to, wow, they're actually serious. Because
Yeah.
you could tell, as you said, when Daphne was talking, she could see right through Daphne.
Yeah.
But when the Duke started to talk, the whole room melted.
Yeah.
And then that friendship quip and the part where like the queen realized, wow, it's almost like she could see that in her old relationship, and she was kind of reminiscing on how she may have
Yes.
had that at some point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so she could really feel and empathize with them in her heart.
I love the reversal of roles a little bit of masculine and feminine. Usually, men are kind of given this deciding factor in marriage, right? Like they propose. And in this, yes, he did propose. What I love what the queen did was after he gives this beautiful, vulnerable speech, which again, we were talking earlier before the podcast about you can't be brave without vulnerability. Brene Brown talks about that all the time. And here is this very like tough masculine man in front of a group of ladies being super vulnerable. And then the queen allows Daphne, who should probably be in the more vulnerable role, right? And she goes, I want you to choose. Do you really want to marry him? Because you can marry my cute little Prince Frederick over here.
And have everything.
And I just thought it was really beautifully Shonda-esque.
Yes.
She really knows how to play with masculine and feminine and flip the roles
In a great way.
in a beautiful way.
It's very appealing
It
and
really-
refreshing.
Yes. So they get the approval, and it seems like everything becomes like hyperdrive because they want to get married quickly. And you know, there's other characters that are going through some awakenings and some feelings. Benedict is one of them. Benedict goes to Henry Granville's sex party. Oh, the sex party, the sex party. I think it was pretty cool to see someone who, I'm sure, you know, Benedict gets the babes whenever he wants to, but to see him be like Alice in Wonderland, like,
Yeah.
what the hell, this exists?
Yeah, he was very confused.
Yeah.
The Bacchanal, what is it? Bacchanalia, when it's they used it in the days of like group sex parties, but they're painting like naked people and people are drinking and smoking.
That's the essence and the history of those paintings. They were painting the reality of what was happening. So everyone was just kind of sleeping with everyone, especially like in the Roman and the Greek times.
Yeah.
It was really a reflection of that entire history.
It was, and it was in this like very
interesting to think
done
about.
up
It is.
18th century like
Bathhouses, you know,
Yeah.
all those sorts of things.
Totally. And 18th century was so like, we don't even talk to our daughters about having
Yeah.
sex or where babies come from or that sex can make babies.
Sure.
I mean,
No
men-
correlation.
Yeah, for men, it's completely different.
so
Or for women that aren't ladies, right?
Yeah.
It's the women of the night.
yeah. I mean, it was
Yeah.
eye opening. And then the other thing I loved about this was there were suggestions of Benedict's eyes being open to the idea of not only just being with women, but men being with men. And not that he probably, and maybe he did think of that before, but Anthony's a pretty tough older brother to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's seeing someone who he respects, who's an artist, and Henry Granville is married.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was very interesting. How was your you know what? I'm going to point this out very quickly. I say interesting every single podcast. I've said it before. We need to do a tally on my interesting. Find a new word, Seraphine. So, as I ask you guys, when you guys saw that scene, have you ever had an Alice in Wonderland moment? It doesn't have to be at a group sex party, but like where your eyes
Or
were
it
open.
could be.
It could be, right? I love it. Or it could be. I mean, where you completely, your eyes were opened and you're like, wow.
I guess traveling in general, you experience the different cultures and you're like, holy shit, this is how they do life. you
Yeah.
know? So nothing like that, but just seeing different lifestyles and different cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I like it.
Yeah. It reminds me of traveling in Europe and
Yes.
seeing these tapestries of people who are having group sex. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what was happening in
Yeah.
these Middle Ages, you know, and before in these times, and people were painting it. And well, men were painting it. There weren't women painting
No.
about it, but there were men painting about it. And then with your experience, it reminds me of Boys Town in Chicago.
Yep.
And just, you know, getting off the brown line or the red line and hanging out in these clubs.
Yep.
And just seeing any and everything just kind of happen.
Yeah.
And lots of Madonna.
Oh gosh.
Lots of neon drinks and
Yep.
pictures and just
Yeah.
enjoying life.
Yeah. It's a cool feeling, and it's a rare feeling.
Yeah.
To feel newness, excitement, being titillated. I know everyone uses that word like, ew,
What does that mean?
It means like aroused in some way, like turns you on or opens your eyes, and it's like you're feeling something. It gives you the goosies. So the goosies, like J-Lo says, you know, when she's when is she on like those shows where she's that the World of Dance. She'll
Yes.
always
Oh,
be
yeah.
like, it gave me the goosies. I'm like, that would give me the goosies too, because he was cute in that dance routine. So we've got the crazy sex party, and the funny thing about that is, again, it's a very big like. We've got this side of it, and then the next day we have the wedding, and the wedding is very small, and it's very intimate. There's not group sex.
Right.
There's a
What is sex?
there's a
What is it? It's a complete dichotomy.
Yeah, it's totally different.
but
I love that
there,
word.
But there is sex though. The glove, when he puts the ring on her finger. I mean,
That's intimacy for sure.
the eyes,
So intimate.
just that moment, those two staring into each other's eyes. There is this amazing ceremony that the Quakers do when they get married. And how they get married is the two of them sit in front of each other. And the congregation goes around them and no one says a word because they want God to come into the room. And they just keep staring and staring and staring, and until God speaks or they feel the presence. That's when they either speak or say, we're married. And to me, that scene was so like that. And the way he slid the glove off of her hand made me believe that you don't always have to have wild, crazy sex all the time. Sometimes just the touch of the hand, the letting go of the hand at the beginning. It was such a beautiful way to bring it back of he took her glove off to touch her hand. And I was like, I'm so turned on.
I love that you said that it's full circle back to the painting
Yeah.
moment when they held hands and then the glove.
Yeah, it's
These hands, the intimacy of hands.
Well, and he does that. We'll get to it, but
Yes.
he does it again in episode 6. We'll come back.
yeah. Guys, if you're listening, handhold. I'm just saying handhold.
I love a handhold.
I think I love the idea of the strong lock of eyes. Like
Yeah.
to me, I don't think there's anything sexier than like an actual like
Eye contact.
yes, like
For
a,
sure. I agree.
Yes.
I think I've recently dated someone. I think I was telling you about it that like well, you all know, but like one
Electricity.
of the most intimate things I had ever experienced with any guy I'd ever dated was literally just staring into this guy's eyes for a while. I was like,
It's called soul gazing.
is this really happening?
It's a
We do
thing.
that in yoga teacher training, right?
Yes, it's a thing.
It's very uncomfortable, but it can
Yeah.
be very
But
comforting
it
at the
can be
same time.
very comfortable.
Right. If you're doing it like with a stranger, like when
Yeah,
you're doing
no,
teacher training
hell
is
no.
different. But
Yeah.
with someone that you really are into.
Yeah,
yes.
and then you just like lock
It's
eyes.
amazing.
It's like game over. Let's go.
Yeah. But also notice from day to day when people ask you like, oh, how are you doing? How's your day? That sort of thing. They're not looking you in your eyes. To
no.
really look someone in the eyes when you talk to them, that's intimacy right
It
there.
is.
It is.
Something
Even
I've been
between
working on, because I used to always like, I'll be talking to someone and look out, but like to look at someone and like have a conversation with them, you know that they're engaged and they're listening. So it's like a
Yeah,
also,
for sure.
To see them.
Yeah. When I was
everyone wants to be seen.
Of course. I have a habit of sometimes looking at people's mouths when they talk. But
I do too, because I'm
yeah,
just a what do you
my
call
dad
it?
used to do
Lip
that
reader?
with me. Like he would come to college and look me, and he would always say, "Look me in my eyes. That's the only way I'm gonna know if you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, don't look away. Look me in my eyes."
I love it. As we all look to Aaron's 5-minute hand.
Aaron's eyes.
He was
5 minutes.
so
Aaron, look me
intense.
in my eyes if you're bad.
He was so intense, like
he was.
staring down this camera.
I love it. I freaking love it.
Do it if you're bad.
So do it if you're bad.
Wait, speaking of
He
do
does
it,
it.
let's
Wave
wrap
at me
this
if
up
you're
with the
bad.
do it
we will,
situation.
we are going to wrap this up. So it is, we've got a few things happen in this episode that, again, I think intimacy is so important. And she almost lost it with Prince Friedrich, and everyone, even her little sister, was like, oh, it's so romantic, Prince Friedrich, with even the way she turned him down. Yeah. Little does her sister know what goes on behind closed doors.
Right.
I think that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then I also thought, to your point about eye contact, the fact that her own mother, was trying to talk to her about intimacy and could barely look her in the eye and talk to her about sex.
Yeah.
I think it's getting better now as women and men, that we can look in each other in the eye and talk about sex and not have it be because we want to have sex with the person. It's just let's have a conversation about intimacy and eye contact and hand holding. It's not always about the act or the orgasm, because sometimes you can have an orgasm intellectually or
Definitely.
Isn't that like sapiosexual or something?
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're attracted to people's intellect.
Yeah, and it changes. I mean, I think relationships are ever evolving. We see that with the king and the queen, and his dementia. Marriages aren't going to be perfect, and it goes back to Simon talking about friendship, and it all ties beautifully together. We can't have too much of the group sex without the hand holding, and we can't have a perfect, beautiful marriage without a fight sometimes, or in
the dementia was so well characterized with the sex at the end. When them being at the end, they weren't looking at each other when they were at the end, INN, right? They were avoiding each other's eyes, pacing through these hallways, and then once they finally stood still and looked at each other, it just
loved it.
happened.
Yeah, and then they finally got,
because they were filling in the blanks. They weren't seeing each other,
and a lot of communicating.
I loved that vulnerability
Yeah.
of them telling each other exactly how they felt. Loved it. And Simon is the one that started it, and he is the least vulnerable person, and she's opening up that vulnerability inside of him because she's melting him, and I love it.
They're burning for each other.
They're burning.
For those of you who
I
are
love that
listening,
also.
to clarify, this is at the end of after they get married, and it's their wedding night, and everyone expects everyone to have sex, and they're coming to terms with the fact of the why that they're in this together. Well, ladies, this was a good episode. It was a real good episode. I think it's one of my favorites of the season.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be back, so you better click that like button, subscribe, so you can see what we think about episode 6. Swish, biash. See you later. Bye.